Ma'am, you want to tell me what you're doing out here dressed like that? Looking pretty suspicious if you ask me.
I'm standing on my porch. This is my house. What's suspicious about that?
Folks around here don't usually wander out in hospital scrubs at dusk. Makes people nervous.
I just got discharged. I came straight home. You can see the wristband. I'm not wandering anywhere.
Marion Caldwell's earliest memories were steeped in the smell of spices and the clatter of pans. Her parents had come from Ghana decades earlier, arriving in Memphis with nothing but determination and the smallest remnants of family inheritance. A modest sum of money, a set of recipes passed down through generations, and the unshakable belief that work, discipline, and education were non-negotiable. Her father, Kwame Caldwell, was a man of immense patience and exacting standards. In the kitchen of his small downtown restaurant, he moved with the precision of a surgeon, carefully balancing spices, timing, and heat to produce the perfect dish. Her mother, Abina Caldwell, managed the front of the restaurant, her ledger book always open, tracking every expense, every tip, every order. The smell of fried plantains, jollof rice, and simmering stews filled their tiny apartment above the restaurant, mingling with the scents of the city streets below. From the beginning, Marion understood that life demanded effort beyond what was easy or convenient. Her parents worked 16-hour days, sometimes more, often sending Marion and her younger siblings to school before sunrise and returning late at night, exhausted but resolute. They spoke to Marion about the value of knowledge, the importance of discipline, and the need to persevere in a world that often underestimated her because of the color of her skin. Memphis in the late 1970s and early 1980s was a city still healing from its segregated past. Marion was aware from a young age that she would encounter assumptions about her abilities and worth. Teachers who doubted her intellect, classmates who questioned her presence, neighbors who seemed polite but harbored quiet suspicion. She absorbed these lessons without resentment, seeing them as challenges to be met with excellence. By the time she entered middle school, Marion had developed a meticulous routine. Every assignment, every project, every test was approached with precision. She did not merely complete her work, she perfected it. She discovered early that her intellect and diligence could not always protect her from prejudice, but they could provide undeniable proof of her capability. She thrived academically, earned recognition, and began to envision a future in which she could define her own path, independent of the society's expectations. Her parents supported her ambitions, insisting she pursue fields where merit, not appearances, could determine success. Science fascinated Marion. Biology, chemistry, and the intricate mechanics of the human body captivated her imagination. She excelled in high school, securing scholarships and mentorship opportunities. Her achievements were both personal victories and quiet rebuttals to those who assumed limitations based on race or gender. By the time she was accepted to Emory University, Marion had internalized resilience as part of her identity. College was a new challenge, one where she often found herself among few students who shared her background. The coursework was rigorous, social dynamics complex, and the pressure to prove oneself constant. But Marion thrived. She immersed herself in her studies, research opportunities, and mentoring relationships with professors who recognized her potential. By her junior year, she had already distinguished herself in advanced biology courses and laboratory research, earning praise and securing letters of recommendation that would carry her into medical school. Medical school at Johns Hopkins was another crucible. Marion often found herself the only Black student in her classes. From professors who assumed her capabilities were limited, to peers who occasionally dismissed her contributions, the environment tested her resolve. Yet Marion adapted. She learned to navigate subtle microaggressions with grace, turning frustration into motivation. Her determination was unwavering. She not only kept pace with her peers, but frequently surpassed them. Clinical rotations offered both learning and challenge. Cases of extreme complexity, patients with histories so intricate they required more than textbook knowledge, and mentors who demanded excellence. Each success reinforced her confidence, but also reminded her that her position was earned, not given. Residency and fellowship were transformative. Marion's schedule became a cycle of long nights, critical decisions, and high-stakes procedures. Her specialty, interventional cardiology, required precision, composure, and the ability to act decisively under pressure. She faced life and death scenarios daily, learning not only the technical skills required, but also the emotional discipline necessary to guide patients and families through fear and uncertainty. In those years, Marion witnessed the fragility of life, the weight of responsibility, and the profound impact one person could have when combining expertise with empathy. Returning to Memphis in her early 30s, Marion joined Westwood Memorial Hospital, quickly becoming a respected cardiologist. Her reputation was hard-earned. Patients trusted her implicitly, colleagues admired her skill, and hospital administrators relied on her judgment in both clinical and administrative matters. She published research, taught residents, and contributed to hospital boards, always maintaining the balance between professional excellence and personal integrity. By 2011, Marion was ready to establish a sanctuary of her own. She purchased a modest brick house in Central Heights, a historically white, affluent neighborhood that had begun to diversify slowly. The house was unassuming, a covered front porch, a small, meticulously tended garden. But for Marion, it represented decades of effort and sacrifice. It was a place she could return to after grueling hospital shifts, a space where she could breathe, reflect, and simply exist. Even in a neighborhood known for its unspoken social rules, Marion felt a quiet confidence. She knew the subtle microaggressions might persist. Neighbors might occasionally question her presence or speculate about her profession and finances. But she trusted that her accomplishments, her ownership of the property, and her integrity would anchor her place in the community. Yet even with all her preparation, even with all her accomplishments, Marion understood the fragile nature of perception. No matter the years of work or the proofs of legitimacy, assumptions based on race could manifest anywhere, even in the driveway of her own home. And on that Sunday morning, the air still cool with the promise of early autumn, those assumptions would manifest in a way Marion had never anticipated. Marion Caldwell's first day at Emory University was suffused with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Atlanta's autumn air carried a sharpness that made her cheeks tingle as she navigated the sprawling campus. The oak-lined walkways, historic brick buildings, and the distant hum of student life signaled opportunity, but also a subtle tension she had learned to sense from years of navigating spaces where she was sometimes the only black face in the crowd. Her dorm room, small but orderly, soon became her sanctuary. She arranged her textbooks, notebooks, and lab manuals with meticulous care, a reflection of the discipline that had been drilled into her since childhood. Each object had its place, each routine carefully planned, because Marion understood early that in an unpredictable world, control over the controllable was essential. Classes began in earnest. Introductory biology lectures were a blur of microscopes, chemical pathways, and complex molecular interactions. In some moments, she felt exhilaration. She was exactly where she belonged, doing exactly what she loved. In other moments, the social dynamics were daunting. She encountered professors who, while polite, occasionally underestimated her capabilities, assuming that her quiet demeanor reflected inexperience rather than focus. Classmates sometimes dismissed her contributions or treated her presence as novel rather than legitimate. Marion had already learned how to handle this. She listened, processed, and then responded with clarity and precision that left no room for doubt. She realized early that excellence was the language through which she could command recognition. By mid-semester, she had become known for her meticulous lab work, her insightful contributions in class discussions, and her unwavering discipline in completing assignments. Outside the classroom, Marion sought mentors, faculty members who recognized her potential and were willing to invest time in guiding her. Dr. Lillian Harper, a research professor in molecular biology, became one of her closest guides. Harper recognized Marion's brilliance immediately and encouraged her to participate in ongoing research projects, providing access to rare lab equipment and advanced techniques. Marion thrived under this mentorship, spending hours after classes in the lab, isolating proteins, running experiments, and documenting findings with painstaking accuracy. Socially, Marion navigated a complex landscape. Many students came from backgrounds that differed dramatically from her own. Some assumed she did not belong in certain spaces. Others treated her presence as an anomaly to be acknowledged but not necessarily respected. Marion learned to read these subtleties quickly, understanding when to assert herself, when to observe, and when to disengage. She became adept at carving out spaces where her intellect, work ethic, and character could define her presence rather than others' assumptions. By her junior year, Marion had already begun to distinguish herself in research. She co-authored papers on cardiovascular physiology and cellular mechanisms, earning recognition in undergraduate academic journals. Awards followed, but Marion paid little attention to accolades. Her motivation was rooted in mastery, in understanding, and in the drive to contribute meaningfully to a field she loved. When medical school acceptances arrived, Marion approached the process with the same precision that had carried her through high school and college. Johns Hopkins accepted her, recognizing her academic excellence, her research contributions, and her exceptional recommendations. Medical school proved even more rigorous than she had anticipated. Lectures were longer, material denser, and the stakes infinitely higher. Marion often found herself the only Black student in her class, a fact she noticed more keenly in group discussions and clinical simulations. Microaggressions manifested in subtle ways. A professor who hesitated before calling on her, classmates who assumed she would take longer to grasp concepts, patients who were initially skeptical of her competence. Marion's response was deliberate. She prepared meticulously, anticipating questions and scenarios before they arose. She volunteered for challenging cases, often the most complex and time-consuming, demonstrating skill and composure that left colleagues and faculty with no doubt of her capability. Slowly, respect replaced skepticism, though she knew the underlying biases persisted quietly beneath the surface. Clinical rotations introduced Marion to the human side of medicine. She worked long hours in the hospital wards, observing, assisting, and eventually leading patient care under supervision. Each patient brought a unique challenge: complicated histories, complex social circumstances, critical emergencies. Marion learned to combine technical skill with empathy, understanding that healing required more than precision. It required listening, patience, and emotional intelligence. Her residency at Johns Hopkins was grueling. The hospital demanded unwavering dedication. Marion's days began before sunrise and often extended well past midnight. She performed procedures that tested her steady hands, sharp mind, and resilience under pressure. Heart catheterizations, angioplasties, and complex interventions became routine, each requiring not just knowledge, but instinct honed by relentless practice. She faced failure and success alike, learning from mistakes while celebrating life-saving victories. The fellowship at Cleveland Clinic in interventional cardiology was another crucible. Marion's peers were skilled, competitive, and ambitious, but she thrived. The environment was high pressure, and each procedure carried weighty responsibility. She mastered techniques that saved lives and honed judgment that could decide outcomes in minutes. Mentors challenged her, sometimes critically, but Marion's responses were measured, confident, and precise. Throughout her training, Marion kept a journal, recording experiences, reflections, and insights. She wrote about patients whose lives were transformed through her care, colleagues who supported or challenged her, and moments where her presence had been questioned purely because of who she was. These entries became a chronicle of perseverance, a testament to the power of diligence, intellect, and resilience. By the time Marion returned to Memphis to begin her practice at Westwood Memorial Hospital, she was not merely a physician, she was a force of precision, empathy, and determination. Patients trusted her judgment implicitly. Residents sought her guidance. Administrators relied on her decisions. Her reputation was not just earned, it was undeniable. Her work ethic remained extraordinary. Days began at 5 a.m., often ending near midnight. Yet Marion approached each patient, procedure, and consultation with the same meticulous attention that had defined her since childhood. She continued to mentor younger physicians, instilling in them the same values of excellence, preparation, and resilience. By her early 30s, Marion had achieved what many might have considered impossible. She was an accomplished interventional cardiologist, recognized in national journals, respected in professional circles, and trusted by her patients. Yet she knew that the world still perceived her through the lens of race. Microaggressions persisted, subtle but persistent, reminding her that merit alone did not erase assumptions about who belonged in spaces of privilege or authority. When she purchased her house in Central Heights, Marion viewed it as both a reward for decades of work and a sanctuary from the constant pressure to prove herself. The house was modest, a single-story brick structure with a covered porch and a garden. But to Marion, it was emblematic of a life earned, a life built from the foundations of her parents' sacrifices and her own relentless ambition. Little did she know, her arrival in that neighborhood would one day set the stage for a confrontation that would test not only her resolve, but the very systems she had worked within and trusted. Officer Trent had joined the Memphis Police Department with ambition and a sense of duty. On paper, he was the ideal patrol officer, attentive, diligent, and eager to protect the city's neighborhoods. Yet beneath the badge, a pattern of assumptions had begun to take root. Assumptions about who belonged in certain spaces and who did not. Over 4 years, these assumptions would manifest repeatedly, forming a trail of complaints that, in the eyes of the department, were unfortunate but isolated. The first documented incident occurred in East Memphis. A contractor's truck had pulled into a driveway to perform a legitimate renovation. Trent had noticed immediately. The workers were black, and the neighborhood was predominantly white. Without verifying permits or consulting the homeowner, he approached them, asking for identification and proof of authorization. The workers, polite but firm, presented their permits and confirmed they had been hired by the homeowner. Trent's response was cautious but condescending, leaving the men feeling scrutinized despite their legitimacy. A complaint was filed, and the department mandated a diversity awareness training session. Trent completed the session, nodded in compliance, and continued patrol, internalizing little of its lessons. Months later, a college student visiting his grandmother in Germantown became the second case. The student, walking from the car to the house carrying a backpack and books, was stopped abruptly by Trent. The officer demanded identification, asked pointed questions about the purpose of the visit, and doubted the student's explanation. The grandmother came outside, confirming the familial relationship. Trent hesitated, then reluctantly allowed the student to proceed. A complaint was filed. Again, training was assigned, but the underlying pattern remained unaddressed. In Chickasaw Gardens, a young black woman was watering her lawn on a Sunday morning. Trent approached, asking for identification and questioning whether she truly lived there. She produced her ID and deed, and the officer's demeanor shifted only slightly. The complaint filed resulted in implicit bias training, a procedure Trent completed with superficial compliance. No deeper reflection occurred. Each incident shared striking similarities: black individuals, predominantly white neighborhoods, assumptions about belonging, questioning, and confrontation. In every case, Trent acted as if the property or the space demanded verification from anyone who did not fit a narrow racial stereotype. The department noted each complaint, assigned training, and allowed him to continue. They treated incidents individually, never recognizing the emergent pattern. By the fourth complaint, patterns should have been obvious. Trent stopped a real estate agent showing a property to clients. The agent, black, produced listing authorization. The clients were white. Trent questioned the agent rigorously, demanding identification and proof. The clients observed silently, puzzled by the scrutiny directed solely at the agent. The complaint filed resulted in additional implicit bias sessions. Trent attended, nodded, and resumed patrol. The internal memo noted, training completed, no further action necessary. A fifth incident involved a teenager skateboarding in Germantown. The boy was black, performing tricks on a public sidewalk near his grandmother's home. A neighbor called, expressing concern. Trent arrived, stopped the teen, and questioned him extensively. When the grandmother arrived to verify his presence, Trent reluctantly allowed him to continue. Another complaint, another training session, another pattern ignored. The sixth incident, the final precursor to Marion's confrontation, involved a woman walking her dog in East Memphis. Again, Trent stopped her, asked for identification, and questioned her residence. The woman complied calmly, showing her ID and confirming her home address. The complaint was filed, resolved with more community engagement training, and Trent returned to patrol. By now, a clear pattern was evident. 6 complaints, 4 years, all involving black residents in predominantly white neighborhoods, all following the same procedural narrative. Yet departmental action remained absent. Trent's mindset had evolved subtly but dangerously. Each stop reinforced the belief that he was protecting neighborhoods from outsiders, that vigilance required suspicion of those who did not conform to his expectations. He rarely questioned whether his assumptions were valid, rarely considered that wealth, professional achievement, or residency might exist beyond his preconceived notions. Each prior complaint served as confirmation rather than caution. The department's failure to connect the incidents amplified the problem. Supervisors viewed each complaint in isolation, focusing on procedural compliance rather than pattern recognition. The internal culture treated such incidents as unfortunate but not systemic, as though 6 separate occurrences were mere coincidence. Trent, meanwhile, absorbed the message. Stops, questioning, and confrontation were permissible if framed as diligence. By the time he received the dispatch call about a suspicious person in Central Heights, Trent's pattern had been reinforced by repetition, departmental inattention, and his own assumptions. The report came in quickly. An unknown black woman, reportedly trespassing, in the driveway of a home that, according to the caller, belonged to an elderly white woman. Trent's response was automatic. Suspicious person. Check. Black resident in white neighborhood. Assume illegitimacy. Approach, verify, and enforce, regardless of evidence. As he pulled onto Carr Avenue, Trent's focus narrowed. He saw a woman standing calmly at a mailbox, retrieving her morning mail. She fit the description of unknown black person. In his mind, the scenario had already been rehearsed. Confrontation, verification, demand for identification, perhaps removal from the property if resistance occurred. What he did not see was the truth. The woman owned the house, had lived there for 12 years, and was a respected professional in the community. Each step he took toward the driveway was guided by his accumulated assumptions. Past complaints had shaped his perception, departmental oversight had validated it, and his own biases had hardened it. To Trent, he was simply performing his duty, maintaining order, and responding to a call. The broader implications, the infringement on civil rights, the racial assumptions, the psychological impact, remained unexamined, unseen, irrelevant in that moment. Meanwhile, the community remained oblivious to the pattern. Neighbors who had called police in the past had often assumed their actions inconsequential, confident that officers would exercise due diligence. The repeated incidents of profiling, questioning, and harassment were largely invisible to those not directly affected, leaving residents like Marion to navigate the emotional and legal consequences of systemic bias quietly and alone. This pattern, however, was about to collide with Marion's life in a way that could no longer be ignored. She was a homeowner with clear property rights, professional standing, and the resources to challenge misconduct. The previous victims, though equally legitimate, often lacked the means or platform to confront the pattern that targeted them. Marion's confrontation would become both a personal struggle and a broader reckoning for a system that allowed unchecked bias to persist. As Trent exited his vehicle, badge gleaming in the morning light, radio at his hip, he approached the mailbox with unwavering certainty. In his mind, protocol dictated that he verify, question, and control. He did not consider the possibility that the woman before him had more right to be on the property than he had to question her. Past incidents had trained him to see threat where there was none, and past complaints had failed to recalibrate his assumptions. The stage was set for confrontation, a collision of decades of earned legitimacy against years of unexamined bias, a moment that would test the integrity of both an individual and the system meant to protect her.